friends and welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to do a quick Halloween sew. So we received our 2024 spooky box. I told you that the exclusive pattern that came in the box was very attainable. And today I'm going to tackle sewing it in one day. That's what we're doing today. I'm going to show you how to turn this into a table runner, and I'm also going to sew the quilt, and I'm going to show you what they both look like. So with that being said, friends, let's get into today's video in making this Witches Manor Halloween quilt from our spooky box for 2024. So let's do that right now. Before I do that, I'm going to show you the fabric that I will be using. And here they are. I have here all of the fabrics to make the quilt for this pattern right here. This is the pattern that came in our spooky box for 2024. And this quilt is supposed to measure 40 by 43. I'm going to sew this, and I'm also going to make it in the All Hallows Eve fabric by Joanna Figueroa. These are my leftovers from making the All Witches Night Out quilt in 2023. Now that quilt was completed, quilted, bound, ready for 2024, and I will show you that in this video. These right here, these fabric are the one that I'm going to work in with it. I've had this in my stash for so long and I didn't know what to do with it, and it goes with this. I'm going to find a way to kind of like incorporate this too in the quilt, one of the quilts. Okay, so these is the All Hallows Eve. I don't know if you guys still have this. It's an old collection. I think it was in 2018. They've all been pressed. They've all been starched and ready to go. These were the fabric that we got in our spooky box. This fabric was designed by Kimber Bell and it's Pumpkin Potion. And we did get 9 5/4 in our box. So I'm going to try to utilize all of it to where I don't have anything left over in this when I'm done using these fabrics. So here we are. Let's get started. What I'm going to do now is proceed and cut the fabrics to what we need and how it's supposed to be. I'm going to utilize my triangle on a roll in this quilt just to make things a little bit faster. So that is what I'm going to do. With all that being said, let me go ahead and cut this fabric and get started in sewing this, because it is October, it's Halloween month, we are pressed for time. So here we are, let's start sewing. Now I have all of my pieces all cut out. So I have my dark colors cut out, and then I have my light colors all cut out here, okay? So we need to make this big HST right here. I have them cut all down here of what we needed. So what I'm gonna do is sew the HSTs first, because there are quite a bit of them. I'm going to trim them down, and then I'll meet you here. For our first assignment, we are going to make the bats that goes on the top corner of the quilt. I have my pieces here all cut out. It's manageable for me to have each section on a mini design board. And I am using my alphabetes because this is one big pattern that will yield one quilt. For this part, we are going to take our rectangle here, and we have 2 of them. We're going to take our square piece. I'm just going to put it right here. So I'm just going to bring you over to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to stitch them. So for this part, we need to make 2, and then we're going to cut off the corner. So now I have them both here nice and completed. I'm going to put them right there. So our next step is to take our rectangle and do another sew and flip. So we're going to take another piece of our white background, and we're going to sew from top right to bottom left. So now both pieces are sewn. I'm just going to cut the corner part off. I'm not going to use it for anything because honestly it's not big enough for me to sew into anything. These 2 are completed. Our next step is to make what I call like a little mini square, like a corner square. So what we're going to do is bring this HST. This is the first part. I figure it was HST. There's no need for you to see me make that. We're going to make a unit that will look like this, kind of like a 4 patch. So we're just going to sew them together, and we're going to need to make 2. So let me make this. Here they are. I have them both completed, and we need to make 2. So our next step is to just take both of these and sew our rectangle next to them. And I'm just going to chain piece them meaning that I'm just going to sew without breaking thread. We're going to sew our X piece next to the kind of like the ears. And so we're going to press onto the white. That's the instruction that's been given. And our next step is to take our W and sew it onto the top. So we're also going to make two. It's going to look just like this, and then we're going to make another one that's going to look like this. So I'm just going to piece them as well. So both pieces are sewn on, and this is what they look like. So the next thing we're going to do is build on to this piece right here. We're going to take our short piece that we made earlier, and we're going to sew it on to the bottom like this. So this is what we're doing. This is what they're going to look like. So we're just going to do another sew and flip. We're just kind of like building onto this. I think it's a bat. Okay, it's a bat, and then we're just going to build on. The next thing we're going to do here is sew this two on to the corner pieces. The most important part here is to make sure that this corner piece right here lines up with this. So I am going to pin to make sure that it does look right. So I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to make sure that it lines up, and I'm going to pin where my corner is so my fabric doesn't move while I sew. So now we have both of our bats completed. Our next step is to make these two blocks right here. This is how I'm going to sew it. I'm going to cut out a piece right here. This is a piece that I'm going to use, and I'm going to be using my triangle on a roll paper to make it, because we do need to make quite a bit of HST for this block and for the next block. So what I'm going to do is just cut out my triangle on a roll, and I'm just going to put pretty size to pretty size, and I'm just going to make it all at the same time and then just cut it out so that way I can have a precise size. This is our second step. So what I've done is press all of them open just like this, right? I've set them up to what they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to be sewn. So what I'm going to do now is just sew this right here, sew this, and then come and sew these one, press them, and then we'll be done with this step. Okay, so now I have this two completed. Our next step is to sew this right here. The only thing that's important here is to make sure that the start, the HST are supposed to be oriented where they're supposed to be. That's the only important part here. Okay, so I've completed both of this right here. I did this ahead of time. Our next step is to make what looks like a tall house. So this is completed. So what we're gonna do now is attempt to assemble the house. We're making this as fast as we can so we can get it ready for Halloween or gift it if we have to. Okay, so I'm just gonna sew this part first. So these are done, and then so we're going to assemble it. Like, this is just an idea for y'all. Make a lot of these houses and then just kind of put a border around it, and then put pumpkin, like alternate the house, a house, a pumpkin, a star, whatever, and just kind of make a quilt out of it. So that's an idea. Totally make it its own quilt. You can make it Halloween or Christmas. It doesn't really matter, or just any other quilt. So we need to make two. That is done. Our next step is making this star right here, and this star is already completed. If you want to be a little ambitious, you can put sashing here and then kind of sew this together, or put like sashing here, or put pumpkin, and then you will have like a little mini table runner. That's just an idea right there. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is make our witch's hat, which brings us to using this lovely ruler that came in with our box. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to take our A piece, we're going to take another rectangle, and we're going to sew it together like this. I did press it. It says press to the dark, but I went on ahead and pressed it open because I wanted it to be as flat as possible. So what we're doing now is taking this and putting it as close as possible to the middle, which I have done. And we're going to trim both sides. Okay, and I'm gonna come down this way and I'm gonna cut down because I have to hold on to it. Cut. This is what we are looking like right now. We're gonna take our rectangle. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. We're gonna take this rectangle right here. We have two of them. Okay, we're gonna bring our ruler. We're going to put it this way. We're gonna bring it like this. Now you're gonna make sure that this ruler okay, so let me show you. This ruler has two lines, okay? You're going to make sure that this is to the second line right here. Just like that. And it's going to give you a little lip right here. That's going to be your sewing allowance. So you're going to bring it to the second and then you're going to cut going this way. Make sure your second line is onto the fabric and then just snip. Okay? So this is going to be like that. So we're going to bring our second square. We're going to orient it the other way. So we're going to orient it like this on the second line going from your left. We're going to cut going this way. And I know you're not supposed to cut backward, but I'm going to do that with this one. So I'm just going to cut going this way. I know. So you guys don't comment down below because I know I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm going to do that for this this one rectangle. I'm just going to cut. See, it's fine. Nothing happened. So now this is what we're supposed to be looking like. Just like that. What I'm going to do now is sew this part to this part and then this part to this part. So now both sides are sewn on. The only thing I need to do now is press it and then we are going to attach the rest of the component of the quilt. So the next thing we're going to do with our block is to take our rectangle piece. Here they are right here. So you're going to sew your square onto the bottom of both blocks. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do here. So now I have them both all completed. We're going to take our star block and we're going to take our E pieces. We're going to sew these two pieces on the side and that will be done for this one. This is completed. So what we're going to do now is bring our G square piece and we're going to sew it onto the top like this. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stitch it. This is what we have to do for this section. So next is our witchy hat. So I'm going to complete that process. So with that being said, I did complete all of the HST that we need. So I sewed this section first and then I sewed this section next. So I tried to sew all of the seam open so that way my square pieces will lay flat. This is what they're going to look like. In order for me to have my points match, I'm going to just pin these, pin here, and then pin over here. So that way all of the points will match up correctly. I'm going to just pin on the corners or on the seam lines. Like that. So now I have them all pinned. I just pin right on the seam lines and I'm just going to sew. So this is what our quilt is going to look like when it's all done. I just went ahead and put it on the board so you guys can see what it looks like. I also have not put on the border yet. If you are in a rush and you are like cutting it too close for this year's Halloween, you can also make this a table runner where you wouldn't have to sew all this. You would just stop here. This would be like a it will be like a table topper or a table run. If you don't want to sew a quilt, if you're in a rush and you're like, you know, pressed for time for whatever reason, maybe it's too close for the season, what you can do is you don't have to sew this bottom part right here. So you could just stop here and make this a table runner. So let me show you what it looks like as a table runner. This is what it will look like as a table runner right here. So you wouldn't have to sew the entire thing. So I just sewed the top here and I put borders on it. And so I just have to quilt it. I will go on ahead and put a backing on it and quilt it and I will be done. So if you're pressed for time, this is perfect this way. So the border, the size of the border that I put on is 3 inches. So I cut it 3 inches and put on all 4. So it gives me a little bit over like 44 inches or so, I'm roughly. So I did not change anything here. I just add 3-inch border right here, which gives me 2.5 at the end. So that's an idea for you. But for the quilt, what we're going to do now is piece this part and then put the borders on, and then we will be done. Okay, so let's do that. So I have all my pieces right here all lined up and they're ready to be sewn. So what I'm going to do now is bring you to the sewing machine and sew them. Okay. Okay, so this first roll is done. And so now we're going to do our bottom row. So this is what we're supposed to look like right now. I'm going to point out that this witch's hat and the bottom part of the house is going to overlap. So what I'm going to do is make sure, so right here at the end right here are matching, and then at the end over here where my finger is, I'm not sure if you can see where my finger is, they're also matching. So what I'm going to do is flip it over and then pin here first. So that way it doesn't look crooked when I'm sewing. So I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to pin at the end first. So then I'm just going to come here and I'm going to pin. Okay. And I'm going to come here on my junction, which is my sew line. And then I'm just going to pin again. Okay. And then I'm going to come here to the end and then I'm going to pin. Because now when I'm sewing, I know that when I finish sewing, that they're going to come up and they're going to match. Okay. So what I'm going to do is flip it over and make sure that my seams are sitting straight. And I'll just go ahead and pin in between. So I'm just going to flip it over, making sure that everybody lines up, meaning like both sides of the fabrics are lined up. So what I'm going to do now is bring you back to the sewing machine and we're going to sew it. I'm going to show you what it looks like from the left to the right. Both top and bottom are sewn on. This is what it's looking like right now. Okay. Now this is the part where if you do not want to sew the entire thing, you can quit here. You can stop and you can put borders around it and make it a table runner. Or if you want to go above and beyond, you can sew a pumpkin right here, like a smaller pumpkin in the middle. Make a 6x9 pumpkin and put like a sash in here and on the bottom on both sides. And then you will have a complete project. You're just not going to do the whole thing. But in this case, we are going to sew on the bottom part. Okay. So the bottom part is the HST. So this is the part that we're going to sew on right here. We're just going to match it to the bottom and we're going to sew it. So I'm just going to pin. Okay. So now that I've pinned all that, I'm just going to sew the top and the bottom layers together. So now I'm just going to sew on my borders. this is what your quilt will look like if you decide to sew it this way. Another idea that I have is you don't have to do your HST this way. You can do like a little pinwheels. You can do like a zigzag, like a chevron look to it. But since this is a quick project and this is already October and Halloween is like literally weeks away, I wanted to just kind of stick with the, with the theme as to what it's supposed to look like. But I just can't help myself. I still did this. So this is a table runner that you can do. And I know you're going to ask me the fabric for this. This is the leftover from the All Witches Night Out fabric. This is what I have left over. I used it to make this, and I still have plenty left. Actually, you know what? One of our friends here asked me how did my fall 2023 go. So guess what? I'm going to show you that quilt. I've quilted it and it's all done, completed, and I want you to see it. I bought the kit after sewing the quilt. I still have plenty left to make this right here. And then after making this, I still have more left. When you buy a kit, it costs a little bit. It's a good investment because you're going to have more fabric. So I always advocate whenever there's a kit available, buy it. And especially if it's on sale, still buy it, because even if you don't make that project, there's going to be a project down the line that you can make with it. So I do that sometimes when there's a sale and I happen to catch it and I was like, well, I don't really want to make that quilt, but I like the fabric. So I buy the kit and I make something else with the fabric. So that's what I do. And it saves money at the end of the day. So again, this is what a table runner looks like if you don't wish to make the entire quilt. Okay. So one of our friends also asked if I have completed my 2023 fall sew along. Yes and no. So let me show you what I completed and quilted. So this was from the American Patchwork and Quilting magazine that Pat Sloan designed last fall, and this was part of that project. And yes, I did finish it. So this is it right here. It's finished and quilted. And I don't know how much you can see because I can't see what you can see. So this is the bottom, right? And then this is what I use for the backing right here. This fabric was on sale. I bought it and I used it. Okay. And then I wanted to show you this. So this fabric was a leftover from this quilt. I think it's right side up. So this was a leftover from that. And it is also finished, right? And the backing looks like this. This is what the backing looks like. This fabric right here was a Riley Blake design. And it also matches with Joanna Figueroa's one of the line here. Let me show you. So this fabric here was one of the All Hallows Eve fabric. And I found this at my local quilt shop. And it was like almost, it's not perfect. This is a little bit more wider, but this is the closest I can find. So I put this on the back. It is Riley Blake. It's an older line. Don't know where, it's really, really old. So you can't find it. And so this is the front right here. So this is my quilt. It is finished. And then the quilting on it, let me show you. They're supposed to be like little spideys. Can you see little spideys? Oh, I don't know if you can. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a spidey. I'll show you a spidey. So that's like little spideys on it and vines. So this is what it looks like. And when I finished, I didn't quite, I thought I needed it to be a little bit bigger, a little larger by like 3 inches. So I did an inner border like it wanted us to. And then I took one of this fabric that's supposed to be the binding. I cut like 1.5 inches and put it here. And then I broke it up with another, the background. And then I put a stripe, black and white as a binding. And so the way I do my binding is by machine. And so this is what it looks like right here. So I sew as close as possible to the edge so you don't see my sewing on the actual fabric. Oh, there's a Spidey right there, you can see. So that's what it looks like. And one more. Wait, there's more. And then these right here, this was the free sew along that we did this year by Fat Quarter Shop. This was the spooky night or spooky Halloween that was free. So I did the banner and I finished it and I quilted it myself on my machine. I'm not the best at, I was trying to do something new, something different so I can learn how to quilt on my domestic machine. So I quilted it like this. So this is what I did close up, and I try to make like a wishbone, and this is how it went. It didn't go very well, but it went. It went as good as I can have it. So there you go. That's the banner. I did a video on each block. You can go back and watch the video if you want to sew. Oh, and the backing. You want to see the backing. I put this fun candy, cupcakes, peanuts, all of the Halloween fun on the back. So the back isn't actually, it's a fun fabric that I found that I put on the back. And friend, that's all I have for you today. This is my Halloween slash fall kind of video. And oh, one more. Wait. And I do plan on using the Rick Rack here for the quilt. I'm going to use it. So I'm going to be using it. So wish me luck. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Please don't forget to subscribe down below and give me a thumbs up so I can make videos like this all the time, or as much as I can. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for visiting with me in my sewing room today, and I'll love to see you in my next video.